A grieving community pays tribute to a police sergeant killed on the job in Utah as new details emerge about his suspected killer. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Hundreds of people gathered today to pay their respects to Sergeant William Hooser. Services included a somber procession through the small city of Santaquin, south of Provo. State officials and first responders from across the region joined with loved ones for a memorial service at Utah Valley University before the sergeant's burial. Hooser died last week after being struck by a semi-truck. Fox 13's Emily Tenser shows us how his family is working to make sure he is not forgotten.
Every kind word, even if it's misspelled, means the world to the family of Sergeant Billy Hooser.
Tears at your heartstrings to see it. Most of these kids don't even know him, but they've all got something very special to say.
The halls of Apple Valley Elementary School are lined with tributes and thanks.
He died doing a job that he loved, but I guess the important thing is he was more than just a cop.
To his brother and in-laws, he was bigger than life.
Made everybody in the room feel like they were the only one, whether he was in cop mode or brother mode or dad mode.
Every memory frozen behind the glass of a picture frame is just another sobering reminder he's not coming home.
Literally, we did everything together. I will miss him so much.
His family hopes his story and the conversation continues.
It's so important for us as a community, as a group of people on earth, to remember what our freedoms cost us.
His family says he wasn't even supposed to be working the day he died. He was covering someone else's shift. Reporting in Santaquin, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We're learning more tonight about the man accused of killing Sergeant Hooser. Prosecutors say Michael Jane was holding a woman captive in his big rig before he hit and killed Hooser with the truck. They believe the woman escaped while police had pulled Jane over for a traffic stop. Hooser was working to help the woman before being hit. Jane is accused of taking off from that crash scene before being captured hours later. He's facing charges of aggravated murder, targeting a law enforcement officer, and kidnapping. A police shooting is under investigation tonight in Seaside, California. Authorities there say two officers were hit in the head with rocks fired from a slingshot. It happened around 8 this morning when the officers were responding to a report for a pedestrian check. The officers then pulled out their guns and shot the suspect.
I know the officers were contacting this individual. The individual became hostile and started firing rocks with a slingshot at the officers' heads. And the officers were struck multiple times on the head before they defended themselves and returned fire.
Police say those officers were taken to the hospital, but they're expected to be okay. The suspect involved in this case is also expected to survive. Tonight, we're learning the identity of a man who died in an avalanche in Idaho over the weekend. Dr. Terrence O'Connor died yesterday when snow gave way on a backcountry slope of the Lost River Range north of Twin Falls. Investigators say the ER doctor was skiing with a partner when he accidentally triggered that initial slide of snow. That triggered a larger avalanche that buried him in 5 feet of snow. The person Dr. O'Connor was with called for help and worked quickly to dig him out, but he did not survive. Investigators say he and his partner were experienced backcountry skiers. In Northern California, a week-long encampment at the UC Davis Memorial Union Quad is raising concerns as protesters and counter-protesters are reporting instances of harassment. A member for the Davis Faculty for Israel says the pro-Palestinian demonstration intimidates other groups of students. Another counter-protester with the Davis October 7th coalition said that he's felt unsafe. A member of the encampment says they've also been harassed. The university system says they will review any allegations under their anti-discrimination policy. Members of the Islamic community are denouncing the treatment of a pro-Palestinian activist who was hanging a banner on a freeway overpass in the San Francisco Bay Area. KTVU's Jesse Gary explains what happened.
While the region celebrated Cinco de Mayo just days ago, this profanity-laced tirade taking place at the same time became the latest instance of disunity.
I was incredibly surprised.
The target was a man we'll call G, as he wants to conceal his identity. He says he and another pro-Palestine advocate were hanging 2 banners on this pedestrian overpass above Highway 101 near Pierce Road and Alpine Avenue. The unidentified man walks up and demands they remove the banners or else.
I immediately feared for my life in a way because he was saying it like so loud and he was like kind of shouting it. Like I just felt like, okay, what if he attacks us if we don't take this down?
The pair agreed to remove their signs and leave, but they say the suspect became more agitated and aggressive. He allegedly threw their personal items over the fence and onto the roadway's shoulder below. Demonstrators say they've hung banners on overpasses around the peninsula before and were on this particular overpass just a month ago without incident.
It is frightening to see so many incidents of violence that endanger members of my community and other human rights advocates continuing.
CARE San Francisco Executive Director Zahara Ballou says there have been 6 similar incidents around the Bay over the past 6 months, including a knife-wielding man shredding a pro-Palestine banner above the 880 freeway last December.
We are facing a 30-year high in anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian hate.
Jews have also been targeted. This 9-foot menorah was desecrated at Oakland's Lake Merritt, also in December.
We found pieces all over. It seems like it was chopped up, burnt.
The Redwood City CHP says they're investigating this as the country and culture continue struggling with violent reactions to peaceful expressions of free speech.
This issue is important enough to me, and I think to us as Americans, that like we need to continue.
In Menlo Park, Jesse Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
State Department officials are now commenting on a recent report that found Israel likely violated international humanitarian law in its use of U.S.-provided weapons during the war in Gaza. U.S. officials say it is reasonable to assess that the weapons have been used in ways inconsistent with Israel's obligations, but that wartime conditions prevented the U.S. from making that determination for certain.
There is a moral and strategic imperative to take every possible step to minimize civilian casualties, steps that we know that the IDF has the tools and the capability to undertake.
Meantime, Israeli forces continue to move deeper into the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Aid workers say they're struggling to distribute dwindling food and other supplies to displaced Palestinians in that region. A legal victory for the Oakland A's in their planned move to Las Vegas. Today, the Nevada Supreme Court rejected a proposed ballot measure that would have allowed voters to overturn a public financing deal for a new ballpark along the Strip. Lawmakers have approved $380 million for the project, but the group Schools Over Stadiums has been gathering signatures for a referendum that would allow voters to weigh in. In today's ruling, the Nevada Supreme Court upheld a lower court decision that found the language of that proposed ballot measure was legally deficient and confusing. Schools Over Stadium says it will try again to place a measure on the ballot. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a live stream of police responding to a Mother's Day street vendor goes viral. Tonight, how it sent customers to the flower grandma.
And a live look here over the Bay Area where a nice little warm-up is on the way for Tuesday. I'll have a look at what we can expect in the Bay Area and across the West coming up.
Also coming up tonight, a new reason to celebrate for WNBA star A'ja Wilson. We'll break down how you can join in on the fun. A new poll shows former President Trump is leading President Biden in key presidential election battleground states, including Arizona and Nevada. The New York Times Siena College poll has Trump ahead of Biden in those West Coast states, along with Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Among key swing states, President Biden is ahead only in Wisconsin. Analysts say Trump has been gaining support in some key groups that historically vote for Democrats, young, Black, and Hispanic voters.
He's winning in 5 of the 6 swing states, including way outside the margin of error in 3 of them. I mean, that puts him in shooting distance of 270 electoral votes if he wins those states.
Later this week, President Biden is scheduled to participate in several events that honor Black Americans, including delivering the commencement address at Morehouse, a historically Black liberal arts college in Atlanta. Now to Washington State, where a Democratic candidate for governor is accusing Republicans of trying to subvert the election. Current State Attorney General Bob Ferguson says just before the filing deadline on Friday, 2 other men named Bob Ferguson also entered the governor's race running as Democrats. A right-wing Republican activist said he paid for their entries. Today, the Attorney General called on the other 2 candidates to step aside.
This is not an attack on me. It's an attack on our election system. It's an attack on our democracy. Anti-democracy Republicans orchestrated a deceptive and illegal scheme to deceive voters and illegally influence the election.
This afternoon, one of the 2 other Bob Fergusons dropped out of the race, saying he was threatened with legal action. According to Washington state law, using duplicate or fake names on the ballot can be punished by up to 10 years in prison. Well, when police responded to a street vendor selling flowers on Mother's Day, someone grabbed their phone and started streaming it. As Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez reports tonight, the community stepped in to show its support for the so-called flower grandma.
Cell video of an LAPD officer talking to a flower vendor. Going live with the video on social media is Nelson Gonzalez, who owns the Pupusa Express food truck, usually parked at Sherman Oaks and Van Nuys Boulevard. He says the 83-year-old flower vendor was at her usual spot when it seems someone called police saying she did not have a permit. It was poor taste, he admits, telling police while going live again on social media.
One more time, I'm going to detain you. ¿Por qué, oficial? You're interfering. You're not part of this.
Nadie la está protegiendo a ella. The officer takes his phone and handcuffs him, with people like Martín Sandoval
Dios mío santo.
watching live.
La abuelita de las flores.
We call her the flower grandma, explains Sandoval. He ran to the corner and started going live on his social media channels, asking people to come help. We're gonna pay any ticket she gets, she's saying, others showing up just to buy her flowers. Come buy more flowers, another woman chants as more and more people begin to show up, eventually buying every flower the woman was selling.
Se trataba de humanismo.
It's about being a human being, says Nelson, who was not arrested and was glad the community stepped in. The woman was not there today, but speaking with Sandoval yesterday, it's hard to hear over the music, but she calls what happened a miracle. Now, I did talk to LAPD, and they're saying that, yes, they answered what is a valid call, and they do have a right to stop and detain somebody with a cell phone if they feel they're getting in the way. But at the end of the day, when they realized what was going on, they neither ticketed nor arrested the woman with the flowers. In Van Nuys, I'm Christina Gonzalez, Fox 11 News.
Smoke from wildfires burning in Canada has prompted health warnings from Montana to Wisconsin. The smoke is drifting into the U.S., and that's elevating air pollution levels. Nearly 90 fires are burning right now in Canada. One of those burning in the far northeastern corner of British Columbia has forced some evacuations. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Rosemary Orozco, who is tracking the conditions that are pushing some of that smoke into the U.S., including in Montana.
Yes, Alex, here is a look at the smoke and the extent as well as the density. You can see that dark shade of orange and red indicating where poor air quality remains today and lingering into tomorrow. Now, that area looks like it will get some wet weather, which will improve the air quality there. Meanwhile, here's a view of Seattle over the afternoon today. Mostly cloudy skies, low 60s in areas over Seattle with a few scattered showers. Meanwhile, in the desert Southwest, Arizona, Phoenix baking at 100 degrees and going to remain in the upper 90s to low 100s in the days to come. Here's a view of the West Coast satellite and radar. There's a look at some of that activity I'm talking about expected for tomorrow as well, as a low parked over the Four Corners here continues to bring unsettled weather to areas near Utah as well as Colorado. And take a look at what is going on right here over the Sierra Thunderstorms popping up earlier this afternoon due to a low that is off the coastline of the Central Coast that will continue to bring very, well, cool to nice weather for parts of the Bay Area as well as Los Angeles. Here's a view of what to expect for tomorrow. Waking up tomorrow morning with some rain and high elevation snow over areas like Montana, and then sinking in towards Denver and Colorado, where thunderstorms are in the forecast there for tomorrow. Meanwhile, this ridge here off the coastline is going to begin to scoot east, and as it does, it's going to bring temperatures up ever so slightly over parts of California. Still very comfortable weather expected throughout the course of the next several days. Into the afternoon, really beginning to see more of that action going on with the thunderstorms, the rain, and high elevation snow expected over areas like Denver, Colorado. Tomorrow, temperatures ranging in the mid to upper 70s, but you can see there from the icon looking at thunderstorms not only for tomorrow but into Wednesday. Cooler conditions expected, and then rebounding once again into Thursday. Meanwhile, over the Pacific Northwest, looking good. Seattle, low 70s with partly cloudy skies expected for you there. Get into areas of California, low to mid 60s over areas of San Francisco for the remainder of the business week. Temperatures are going to be right about where they should be, maybe even a little bit above average. Southern California, a little bit cool, but not bad at all. Upper 60s expected there with dry conditions and partly cloudy skies. Head over to the desert Southwest, and as I mentioned a moment ago, it is going to be baking throughout with upper 90s in the forecast for Phoenix Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Alex.
All right, if you want the heat, head to the desert. All right, Rosemary, thank you. Well, it can be incredibly difficult for property owners to evict people who've taken over homes or apartments and are living rent-free. Fox 11's Gina Silva followed along with a duo targeting squatters across Southern California.
We're coming in, you guys. We're coming in.
Are you on the lease? Yeah. You know you're not on the lease.
This isn't your property. You don't play.
They call themselves the Squatter Squad, and on this day in Los Angeles,
we have unlawful occupants in a building. We are waiting on the LAPD.
Lando Thomas and Kimry Kotchik
could be up to 8 to 10 people.
Are asking the LAPD to assist them in removing the squatters who broke the lock boxes of an apartment in the back of this building on Menlo Avenue.
The apartment was just completely refurbished, and after someone had been there for decades, and they moved in days later, and it's probably completely ruined now.
According to the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, thousands of properties in California and across the country are being taken over by squatters who know if they provide a fake lease, they can live rent-free.
They're literally training themselves, and they're actually on YouTube and other places training each other how you can actually take over somebody's home like what we're handling today.
When LAPD officers arrive, Kotchik and Thomas explain the squatter situation.
Here's the power of attorney for us to be here.
But there is a problem.
As he said, we didn't see the people cut the lock to get in. That's why we have a witness, thank God.
A neighbor spoke to an LAPD sergeant, and then these two officers went over to the apartment and knocked. But when a kid opened the door and said his parents weren't home, the officers left.
You know, a lot of it's just negotiating with them.
So the Squatter Squad has to break the bad news to the property owner.
They all get the same thing. It's our hands are tied. We can't do anything. And I said, well, even with the notice of trespass, when we have the affidavits, everything, well, they weren't familiar.
Yeah, but thanks for whatever.
It's frustrating and extremely costly for property owners who know the current laws continue to favor the squatters.
If you go on vacation for a week or two, you can't get back into your house. The police tell you need to take them to court. Court takes a year. Well, you're paying rent at another place while you're making your mortgage payment while the squatters are in there ruining your property.
And that was Fox 11's Gina Silva reporting for us tonight. The Squatter Squad strongly advises property owners to visit their local police department and fill out trespassers arrest authorization forms. That empowers police officers to enforce trespassing laws when property owners are not present. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Rap, Las Vegas Aces star Asia Wilson celebrating a new partnership, how she made the announcement about her shoe deal with Nike. Also, life imitates art in Oregon. This adorable scene will introduce you to a real-life Bambi and Thumper. A Las Vegas Aces player is celebrating something only 12 other WNBA players have achieved. You'll notice Asia Wilson wearing a sweatshirt in her social media post, and it reads, "Of course I have a shoe.com." The post helped the two-time WNBA MVP announce her deal with Nike to create a signature shoe. The shoe will be called the A1 and hit the market in 2025. What the shoe will look like has not yet been revealed. Wilson and the Aces are trying to become the first team to win 3 straight championships since the Houston Comets did it back in the 90s. They open their season tomorrow against the Phoenix Mercury. A Washington-based brewery is suing a cannabis company for trademark infringement. The couple that owns No Lie Brewery, based in Spokane, says their flagship brand, Big Juicy IPA, is getting confused with Red Hook's Big Juicy Ballard. The couple says they've got the exclusive rights to the title Big Juicy, according to a trademark they received over 6 years ago. But that's not the only concern. Tilray, the global cannabis company that owns Red Hook, is exploring infusing THC into their brews.
They're hoping that the federal government loosens up cannabis restrictions in America so you can put THC into beverages. What we don't want to see is Big Juicy THC and have somebody think it's No Lie.
The couple has filed its trademark infringement complaint in U.S. District Court. The owners of the other beer, Red Hook, did not want to comment. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is suing Meta for alleged election interference. This lawsuit claims a 30-minute biographical film titled Who is Bobby Kennedy was censored on Facebook and Instagram, both of which are owned by Meta. Kennedy's attorney says the case raises important issues about the censorship of political candidates by social media giants like Meta. Meta so far is not commenting on the lawsuit. U.S. airlines are suing to block the Biden administration from requiring greater transparency over fees they charge passengers. American, Delta, and United, along with 3 other carriers, accuse the Transportation Department of going beyond its authority by attempting to regulate private business operations. The lawsuit also argues a new rule would confuse consumers by giving them too much information during the ticket buying process. The White House says it will defend the rule as part of an ongoing crackdown on junk fees. AAA is predicting close to 44 million people will be traveling for Memorial Day weekend. That is a 4% increase compared to last year, and it closely matches 2005's record travel. It's estimated 38 million people will travel by car, while airports are expected to see 3.5 million travelers that weekend. Experts say drivers leaving Thursday or Friday should hit the road early to avoid mixing with commuters, and travelers returning Sunday or Monday should avoid the afternoon hours when return trips will peak. Finally, tonight, it was a Disney movie come to life in Oregon. Have a look at this adorable scene. A rabbit and a fawn in Coos Bay getting to know each other in a viral TikTok video. You can see the deer touching its hoof on the deck and the rabbit hopping around. They started touching noses, and at one point the deer was seen licking the bunny's face. Viewers online couldn't help but compare them to Bambi and Thumper from the Disney movie. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching as always, and a reminder before we go, you can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering at westcoastwrap.com, and you can stream our shows using the free Fox Local app. Have a great night.